Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome everybody back to the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel and podcast. We are back with another match reaction. This one, it's going to be a lot happier than the last one. I am your host tonight, Chris, joined by Scott, Daryl, and Joe. Before we get started, I'm going to pick you, Joe. Say those famous words.
No pressure, no pressure.
Well, won you now?
Get in.
Get in.
I just want to say, okay, this podcast goes out to Robbie Keane, Adele, Tom Holland, Spider-Man, Ron Weasley, Gavin and Stacey, Glenn Hoddle, Sir Trevor MacDonald, Sir Alan Sugar. Your boys took one hell of a beating. Get in, lads. That was absolutely fantastic display by Eddie Howe's mighty Mags. Scott, I'm going to come straight to you. I'm going to come to you, obviously looking from the outside in, watching that on TV. Was that as good as it was watching live on TV?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. No, it was. Do you know what it was? Going into the game, we did the preview. Everyone was confident, and I think even there was maybe a cheeky 3-1 prediction. Yeah, Joe, it was you, wasn't it? We were a bit more conservative, Chris. We said we'd maybe do 2-1. I mean, after 10 minutes, you blew everything out the window. You're 3-0 up after 10 minutes, and you're just thinking, is this real? Like, am I watching like a dodgy stream where they've just made this up with AI or something? Like, is this actually real? And then it just got better and better and better. And
I can categorically say now, Scott, I think we might have done the watch along to the wrong game last week.
I think so.
But honestly, I don't want to dissect the game too much because obviously we're all on absolute cloud nine now. And we'll do a lot of this on the Always Smiling Faces podcast tomorrow night. I just thought, obviously, with it being such a fantastic result in such a monumental game in Newcastle United season and Spurs' season as well, we needed to do a live watch along for this one.
Yeah.
Daryl, in St. James's Park, honestly, I'm the opposite side to the stadium, to you.
Yeah.
And like Scott said, it just felt like that first the first minute I was in shock. The third minute, I was more shocked, and it just kept on piling and piling up where you are looking around the ground and everybody was doing the same face as what Jacob Murphy done when he scored that second goal.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody around you. It was absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I mean, after 9 minutes, I could have left knowing the game was done. That's how good it was and how confident we would have been then at that point. I mean, we just blew them away. I mean, they didn't even turn up. They weren't there. You know, Lloris, he just never turned up. I mean, the whole lot. It was absolutely remarkable. I've never, in all my years of going to that stadium and having seen games on TV, even in that stadium beforehand, ever seen anything like that. For a team to just turn up and come out like that, and also to be a team that's supposed to be our biggest rival for a top 4 place, it's just unheard of. And I've just never ever seen it like that. And you're absolutely right. I mean, Jacob Murphy's face was just plastered around the stadium because everybody in and around me, including myself, were doing exactly the same thing. I was just like that. I was like,
show us, Daryl. Show us your Jacob Murphy's face. Say this.
It's his Home Alone face, isn't it?
Why is he gone? It's absolutely unbelievable, and I can't even begin to describe how good we were. I really can't. And I don't want to ruin it by saying Spurs were crap, but they were. But again, you can only beat what's in front of you. And you know what it is? We had a killer instinct today, a really big killer instinct. And just listening to Kieran Trippier talking post-match there about how they were trying to encourage themselves to keep going and get another and get another. And by God, in the first 21 minutes, they did that. And It was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
We could see that in the ground. And I'm not sure for you, Joe, I'm not sure if Sky obviously panned to the players after we're scoring goals. I'm saying scoring goals. 6-1 game, man. Absolutely. So scoring goals every single time. The lads were back on it. As soon as it kicked off, within 10, 15 seconds, we had the ball again and we were attacking their goal every single time.
One word, relentless.
This entire season has been defined on work rate and just being tenacious, being driven, being determined, and knowing that if you press the opposition and if you can work harder than the opposition, you're going to have a very good chance of winning games. And, you know, it just shows the character of this entire team that you can be 3 or 5, well, 5-0 up, 6-1 up, and still be pressing for more goals. I've never seen a team so hungry for goals that were, I suppose, unnecessary at a certain point. Like Daryl said, 9 minutes in, the game was done. Absolutely done. Spurs didn't have time to react. I mean, they wouldn't have reacted even if we'd given 2 minutes, but they just had absolutely nothing in the tank. And we were out there to show that this team is ready for that top 4 spot. And I just can't sing their praises enough. It's one thing putting in a performance like that when you maybe 1 or 2-0 down, you're under the cosh, but to be as high up, 3-4 goals up as we were, and to keep pressing is just insane.
Scott, we mentioned that the lads would react to the defeat to Villa, and we're quite not worried, but with my argument to that was, well, Spurs might react as well, but them conceding the last minute and losing the game last week. Mate, they like Joe said, and what Daryl, just to echo what he said, Spurs didn't turn up, but I don't want to highlight so much on that, because what Joe has said is correct, that we didn't even give them a chance to change things or to adjust to things, because, like, once again, we were relentless. But that just shows the likes of the team spirit that Eddie Howe has produced at this football club, and how quick he can change a defeat into such a... I'm going to use the word monumental again, because that's just the word that keeps going to my head. And I've said throughout the season that there's been benchmarks of this season and points where you look at it and see, right, we've established ourselves as one of the top clubs in this league now. But once again, we've gone into this game, like Daryl said, against our competitor for that 4th spot. We've done it even more. Like, we've just highlighted that once again.
Yeah. Do you know what? We've done it against City early in the season when we drew them 3-3. We've done it against Liverpool. Yeah, we didn't get the results. We've done it against Man U. We've done it against Chelsea. We've done it against Arsenal. We've done it against Spurs.
Brentford,
it's almost a shame. It's almost a shame we've got all this money to spend, because we don't need it. We don't need it. You know what I mean? You go into the summer now, after that performance, you just think, well, how the hell do you improve? Obviously,
it's kind of when rich people get given free trainers and stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things, isn't it? But like the footballers on the pitch when they got all that. Yeah. It's just so unreal. Like, obviously, even you look at Man U getting beat. Was it 7-2 off Liverpool? I think it was. 7-0. I don't think it was as convincing as a victory as what we've just had there against Spurs. I don't think Spurs had a shot on target until Harry Kane scored. And I don't think they had many more after that. We were just absolutely dominant. And I think, not to take anything away from the performance, because it was an outstanding performance from us, Spurs set up very, very wrong. They got their tactics all wrong today. Played a back 4 when you should arguably, they probably should have played a back 5. They started that young lad in central defensive midfield out of his depth. We have ended his career pretty much off that performance, and he only played another game where I think they got tanked by Villa. Was the last time he played. It's just like I say, when Eddie Howe must have got in that dressing room last week, I don't know what he said to them. I don't know what he's done to them. And this week in training, I don't know how much he's been drilling them and how much he's been playing them, but it's worked, and it's worked all season. Like, it's this isn't a one-off. Obviously, yeah, we were all shocked and surprised at how quick we scored and the scoreline, but it's now getting to that point where when we win like this, you kind of expect it. And, it's like, it's not a shock. It's not as big a shock as maybe it was or would have been if this was last season, 2 seasons ago. It's like, all right, we've scored 6 goals past Spurs. Next, like, bring it on, because we're that good. It's not like we're fluking these results.
Yeah, well, I think conversations, which, and I'm sure you lads have been the same, but conversation I've been having to the build of this game, I've been quietly confident going in this game and thinking we could batter these, like we could embarrass them, and like Scott said, yes, we're shocked when it's happening, but when obviously the game is done and dusted, you look back and say, why am I shocked? Because we'll look at the slogan, which is plastered in the dressing room, and it's intensity is our identity. And Daryl, that game, you just need to look at that game and say, that's why. That's what Eddie Howe has done.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we would, like we mentioned before there, the pressing game that we employed today was just on top of them. They were overrunning every position by that intensity. It was just unreal. And, Eddie has done such a good job. And, we mentioned on the review of the Villa game last week that, our thought, Eddie will get them back on the training ground this week and have everything ironed out ahead of today. And obviously that's proved to be right. But there's an element of trust. And I think the fan base as a whole would have had the similar sort of thought process as well about last week's game. He'll get them in there, they'll work it all out, and it'll be ready for the next game. And that intensity is just absolutely shone through today. And Eddie mentioned post-match about how the skill of the finishing was incredible. But, I mean, the work rate, the intensity, like you say, is absolutely out of this world today. It's just so, so good. And it's like, I don't even want to say it's at a peak because I think we've got more in the tank.
A lot more. I think we've got a lot more to give. And let's focus on some of the goals. And I apologise straight away if these goals get mixed up and go in different directions because there's so many of them. And I've only looked at the Sky highlights, which are 3 minutes long. So obviously I was in the ground. They might be all over. But I've got to you, Joe.
Yes.
The first game, and I want a special mention to Joe Linton here because he was an absolute animal on that field today. But the goal is created by Joe Linton. Joe Linton picks a ball up and he's running across goal and you're thinking, shoot. Then he keeps on stuttering it. Has his shot. Lloris pans it to Jacob Murphy. That angle which Jacob Murphy manages to lift that into the roof of the net, I didn't know that he could do that. And I'll get on to something else I didn't know he could do either soon. But he's just, honestly, it's second minute into the game and we do that. And you're thinking, this could be a decent afternoon, this.
Oh, you can. Yeah. And it wasn't just Jacob Murphy who was screaming for the ball. Longstaff was on Joe Linton's right and was actually initially annoyed because you could see there was a replay where Joe Linton took a shot and Longstaff is screaming for the ball. And obviously in the end, it was kind of the right decision. But it just shows how confident these players are now that they can get in these advanced positions and be confident of at least getting a good shot away towards the keeper. And I think Murphy did very well to keep onside as well because it's very easy to sort of strain at those offside positions when someone takes a shot, but he did very well, kept onside, and you're right, the angle was tight. I mean, you would still expect him to put it away, but still, composure in the very first minute, 61 seconds I think it was scored in, to anticipate that and to get the shot away above Lloris. It was just a fantastic finish. And I'm really happy for Jacob Murphy as well. I mean, not to go too far ahead, because we will go on to it, but I'm just so happy that he's finally getting some returns on the back of what has been a really great run for him in the side. Yeah. He's had a bit of a turbulent career at Newcastle at times. He was loaned out, I believe, and then he came back into the side and he's struggled to establish himself, but obviously he's taken his chance and what a moment for the lad. So
I'll stay with you, Joe, and maybe we're being overcritical of Jacob Murphy in the past, but since he's got the chance now in the starting 11, not just as a sub, in the starting 11, he's proven that he's a great asset for this football club. That doesn't mean he's going to be starting next season, far from it, but he's very reliable when called upon now.
He's reliable, and he's not just a player that can run about. I think he's actually improved his skill on the ball a lot. Like a lot of the players under Eddie Howe, he's improved his decision making. He's looking up more. He's performing the right passes and and making the right decisions when he needs to. And it's really just a compliment, really, to the entire coaching staff that these players can come in from the from the edge of things and come in the starting 11 and really do a great job. Mankio's a good example as well. I know he came on later on, didn't look out of place at all, was really confident, bombing forward, getting some good tackles in, and again, didn't look out of place in a team that is just used to driving and just, like we say, being intense for an entire 90 minutes.
If we jump into the second goal straight away, Scott, just like in real time at St. James's Park, it's just a couple of minutes later, we get with second, and I believe it's Joe Linton gets a second. Am I right?
From Cher.
one of the greatest balls I have ever seen in my life.
That's twice.
Until that point.
Until the next goal.
Yes.
Well, the goal
until
after
that
the next,
point.
which we'll talk about later. But yeah, I mean, Fabian Schär's done that before with Joe Linton, and the Sky showed a really nice angle where they're just following Joe Linton. All the camera's just on him, and he's pointing where he wants it. He knows where he's running. Shaw knows where to look, and yeah, he just places the ball, and then
it's effortless. That's the best way to describe
Lloris,
it.
like he's not even there. Like, I mean, Lloris had a stinker of a game. Like, they took him off at half time, but he just passed him like he wasn't there. And you see Joe Linton in the box of the ball, and sometimes your heart goes a little bit of a flutter because of his history. But cool, composed, absolutely, deserved of that goal. And it was the touch, just even, to bring it down, to get past the player. He just took out.
Calm.
I can't remember who the defender was now, but he just took him out like he wasn't there with that touch. And yeah, I mean, again, well deserved. I think Joe Linton ended up with player of the game or man of the match, whatever you want to call it.
He did. Yes.
He had to have grabbed that because he's unbelievable.
Out of his skin, he was playing. Out of his skin. That new tattoo must be must be doing wonders for him more.
It's that right leg.
His right leg. Yeah.
Right leg.
Oh, aye, Christ.
If people haven't seen the photos of his right leg, pop over to the Gallowgateshots Twitter account and click on the media on there, because Jesus Christ, it looks like we've been doing experiments on veins. That. Honestly, it looks like a throbbing penis, that right leg. Sorry, everybody.
Enjoy that visual, guys.
The third goal.
I mean, there's been a bit of a press, and we were just having, I think, Lloris clears it out to the midfield in Spurs, and the lad in midfield just doesn't get any sort of control on it at all. It just bounces off him and bounces straight back to Murphy, who just has to turn, and because he's got a runner making a run ahead of him, I can't remember if it's Longstaff or it just takes just takes the man away from him, and then he just absolutely unleashes this thunder bastard, and he leaves Lloris just stood there like a statue. And I saw Harry at half time, and I mentioned it to him, and I think he must have had to have just managed to hit that spot on the valve, because the ball's just going all over the place, and there's no wonder why Lloris never moved, because he clearly didn't think it was going in to start with.
He was cemented to the ground at that point.
Really was rooted. And I mean, it's just such a pure strike. You say that you'd never seen him do that before, but he can, even though it's from a dead ball situation, he does have a bit of a shot on him, because he scored an equaliser down at Wolves a few years ago, which was, it needed power and swerve, and he got it on.
Yeah, he scored at Wembley as well, didn't he, with a long shot? Yeah,
so he does have it in his locker. We just don't see it very often. And for you're talking about players getting into form today, he was one of them.
So sticking with Jacob Murphy, and I think we've probably all seen the clip after he scored that goal in that celebration.
Yes.
So if we could just now take a moment to all do our Jacob Murphy face. Thanks, everybody. Clip that. Next up, honestly, I just want to once again highlight Jacob Murphy. He's had a great time since he's been playing games and having such an impact on this team. But today, he was that level above, and we're seeing it under Eddie Howe's management, where players just the overperform to a certain extent. Or can you look back and think maybe they're underperforming under certain management and coaching before that? Maybe these are the sort of players that and Eddie Howe just got them to that level they should be and some more. Maybe that is the case. And he was absolutely great. And do you know what it is? I'm chuffed a bit, Joe, that he's managed to stay at this football club, because it easily went elsewhere. We could have sold him. He could have went on loan. But he stayed at this club. His boyhood club, supports a team. I think his mum's from Birtley, his dad's from Ashington, I believe, or Cramlington, one of them. He's a supporter at the end of the day. And for him to have this moment today, scoring 2 goals against Spurs, 2 great goals as well, I'm buzzing for him.
Yeah, it just makes it all that sweeter, doesn't it, when a supporter scores for you. I mean, Dan Burn was very similar. I mean, both Longstaffs, when they scored, it's a similar story. We've all obviously dreamt about scoring for Newcastle at one point or another, and to do it at this stage in a game of this magnitude as well, I think it can't be lost on us how important it was to not just put in a performance, but get the result that we needed to break away from those teams in 5th to 8th and to push on for the top 4. So there was pressure on the lads, whether they'll admit it or not. But to get those 2 goals, Jacob Murphy, I mean, I said before, I'm just so happy for him. And yeah, he's put in some fantastic performances. And I would say, I mean, before the start of the season, I think a lot of people sort of targeted the likes of Jacob Murphy as one of the first replacements to be had in either the summer transfer window or the January one just gone, simply for the fact that, you know, we need to improve on quite a few positions for next season if we're going to be getting a European campaign, whether that's Champions League or otherwise. So naturally, you look at the weaker positions or the weaker sort of slots and think, well, you know, who really can we have make way? And yeah, Jacob Murphy was one who didn't really get much of a chance under Steve Bruce at times, and he was kept out the side a lot by Miggy and etc. So yeah, it was sort of natural that we thought, well, he's probably going to be one of the ones to go. But I mean, as I said before, that coaching team, whether you're in the first 11 or whether you're, you know, on the fringes, you're going to be putting in that same level of effort day in, day out, and you're going to be ready if called upon. And it's just really nice to see these players excelling to the best of their ability when they do get that chance. And again, I'm just really, really happy for the lad. And to score a Thunder bastard like that, I mean, come on. It's not much. You can't get much sweeter than that. Like the fact that it just dipped in, it just about hit the corner as it got to the ground, which is just aesthetically, it was one of the most beautiful goals I've ever seen. Like
it's one of those goals where you would love to know what goes through the goalkeeper's mind at that point, because he knows as soon as Murphy's hit that ball, he's probably thinking, right, that's either going out for a throw-in or that's going to absolutely nestle into me back.
Yeah, well, I mean, Sky were interviewing Jacob Murphy after the game, and he goes, "Oh, I saw your face after you scored. Were you surprised?" And he goes, "Nah, because I knew. I mean, he was obviously happy for it to go in, but he said as soon as I hit that, I knew just how a clean a strike it was." And I just, you know, it's one of those where you just have a feeling as soon as it leaves your boot that it's going in. But I think Lloris just probably thought 2 words, and that's fair play.
Yeah, there's nothing better to see the keeper just look to his right-hand side thinking, oh, shite, that's gone in.
Yeah, but it just goes to show how good a striker was when the keeper doesn't even attempt. Doesn't even make like a little sort of show for the cameras. Oh, at least I tried. Like there's no way he could have even gotten to that.
I just want to say thanks to Josh Stockton, who has sent in a £10 donation for the channel. Thank you very much, Josh. He says, "Hi lads, unreal result atmosphere today. Ruud Gullit said he was going to bring sexy football to St James's Park and failed. Eddie Howe has brought sexy football to St James's Park.
I like it.
See you tomorrow night for the Always Smiling Faces podcast." I can just envision Decker's little grin that he's going to have tomorrow night, and I'm pretty confident him and Mark will probably get along tomorrow as well. Scott, I'm going to come to you, and you had the pleasure of talking about Fabian Schär's ball. You're also going to get the pleasure of talking about Joe Willock's ball as well, because that is going to be up there for assist of the season. Is that even a thing? Is that a competition? If not, now. Let's make it one. He's won it. Joe Willock.
Yeah. I mean, I think even who was it? Redknapp said that is the best pass you'll see all season, and he mentioned the likes of De Bruyne, and he mentioned, you know, no one's played a better ball than that. I mean, he plays it from his own half, a through ball, cross field, round defenders, not through defenders, round defenders,
outside of
from his own half.
Outside of his boot, by the looks of it.
I mean, I don't know what happened when he got his hair cut, but that new hairstyle has done him wonders for that ball. Absolutely unreal. And then obviously Isak, you know, credit to him. It's a great ball, but he's still got a lot to do. And he gets the ball and he runs with it, and you know, slots it past the keeper very, very nicely.
Just because you mentioned it, Scott, Isak with the ball at his feet. I'm struggling to think of a player at the top of my head right now that can run and take such long strides with the ball at his feet. And just break ankles without even using skill. Like it's not trickery. It's not anything like that. He's just very, very good with the ball at his feet.
It is. It's like, you know, when you used to play like FIFA back in like the late 90s, and they didn't get the ball right. The ball wasn't its own thing. It would just stick to the player, and you'd be able to run, and it would just stick to the player's foot. It's like that. It's just like watching someone who's got a magnet in their shoe and can make that ball just do whatever they want. It's unreal because, you know, like we've said in the past, he's very leggy. He just seems to. I don't think it's luck. I think he means everything he does because
Of course.
You've seen it with the little kind of 1-2 he did with himself. I think the other week to set up was it Joe Linton's goal when he played that through ball against West Ham, I think it was. He's got the skill to take players on. He's got the pace to take players on, and he's got the finishing as well to score goals. I mean, there's been a lot of comparisons between him and Thierry Henry, and I think that's quite rightly so. We've got a player on our hands who, he's scored now 10 goals this season, and he's been out for a big part of that.
60 million, and I'm going to say this now.
Yeah.
That is a steal for the player that we could potentially have on our hands.
I mean, next season, who knows what we're going to get out of him? He's going to be playing in Europe. I think, in one way or another, we are probably now expecting European football. Depends on what happens for the rest of the season. But
Scott,
it doesn't
just interrupt. It doesn't. Yes, it matters to a certain degree, but we've all said it, and most Newcastle fans will probably be in agreement that this is going to be a gradual build. Right? We've already set that and gone way above that now. And if you were to have Champions League football or Europa or Conference, if you're looking at Champions League and Europa, it's fine. Wherever we land, it's fine, right? It's going to be great for this football club. And I'm just excited to build on that.
Absolutely. I mean, you just attract more players. I know I joked at the beginning of this to say, how do you improve the team? But you go into European competitions and you have to improve because there are still, one or two players in that 25-man squad who do need replacing. We'll talk about it a little bit later on, but like Manquillo making a cameo today, and by the way, did very, very well. And I thought, looked really solid. But when he come on, you're just like, oh, I forgot about him. And you got Matt Ritchie on the bench still, who's still making a few cameos this season, but you wouldn't expect them type of players to make a European squad. Maybe they'd make a Premier League squad next season, but not the European one.
Do you think any point in that, and we know Spurs are full of talented players in that roster that they have, do you think any of them during that game thought, I wish I played for Newcastle?
All of them. when you're 5-0 down after 20 minutes, everyone's like, I wish I was on the other side. I wish I played for Newcastle. Of course. Right. Everyone watching wishes they played for Newcastle when they're at, when you're 20 minutes in and you're 5-0 up. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Harry Kane. Where will he go? What will he do? If he goes, Son's going. I don't think Son stays at Tottenham without Harry Kane, and I don't think Harry Kane stays at Tottenham without Champions League football. So it'll be interesting. I'm not saying either of those will come to Newcastle, by the way. I don't think we're at that level
I just
yet.
want to highlight, I thought Son was probably one of the only players that looked dangerous in that team because he was trying his hardest. He was trying to take that ball forward.
And you know what?
Throughout.
Son hasn't had the best of seasons this year. I think he's only got 4 goals to his name. I think he's been injured. I haven't been following Spurs too much. But yeah, obviously Harry Kane scoring that goal in the second half. We might come to it later, but he kind of just went, well, I'm going to do this because no one else is trying. He just went off. But we'll probably come back to that later on.
It's the next goal, really. And Darryl, it is like Harry Kane just turned around and goes, sod it, I'm going to do it myself. And he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does, yeah. And that's not discounting Isaac's second that came beforehand, but yeah, the Harry Kane.
That one. Yeah.
Do you know what? Even Sky
goals.
nearly missed that goal because they were still showing the highlight they were still showing Willock's pass. And I had to listen
to 5 Live on the way home, and they missed. Did they miss our set? I think they missed the Joe Linton goal. They went to a guy Bournemouth West Ham, and he was trying to summarise what was going on there, and all of a sudden you just hear the crowd reaction to Joe Linton scoring, and it literally takes him about 3 seconds to then get back, and then Vicky Sparks, who was commentating, then has to go in and say it's 2-0. It's ridiculous. I mean,
I was doing so well, but Darryl, go to Isaac say a second goal. Sorry.
Before I do, I want to go back to his first because there's a bit of play. Now, we all know that the Willock pass is, by all means, it's going to be pass of the season, assist of the season, whatever you want to call it. Just before that, Bruno wins the ball on the edge of our box, and it's the bit of skill that he does when he wins it. So to try and describe it really quickly, is he plants his left foot, and you think he's touched it with his left foot, but he hasn't. So he plants his left foot, and his right foot comes straight in, and he rolls it with the back of his heel to gain the control, and then he plays the pass straight away. And it's just absolutely something straight out of beach football in Brazil.
I'm yet to see Bruno take the ball and not roll it with his studs. I'm yet to see it.
It's so good a bit of skill just to get that extra bit of control. And again, he plays the ball through, and then Willock just does his bit. Anyway, so the second goal for Isak. I mean, there's a good bit of interchangeable play around that corner of the box, and I think it's Sean Longstaff ends up with the ball nearly at the byline, and he cuts it back for Isak, who just takes it, and it's such a tight angle, and he just slots it along the floor, and it's just absolutely out of this world. Such a quality finish. And Scott mentioned there about him being like the next Thierry Henry. Well, goodness me, what a finish that was from such an angle. I mean, it's absolutely
23 years old as well, by the way.
That's ridiculous.
23.
And you know what it is? I reckon he'll outscore Miggy this season, and Miggy's the top scorer by about 3 goals or something now. He'll outscore that.
I think he's got 10 now, isn't he? Is he
he's up to 10,
and Miggy's on 11. Is that right?
Yep. Yeah.
He's going to do it. He's going to be top scorer this season.
100%.
And that's ridiculous when you think about it, Daryl. That he could end up top goal scorer, and he was out for what, 3 months?
3 months, yeah.
First half of the season, really. When he played what, 3 games?
Liverpool and Bournemouth, wasn't it? And then he ended up having to go off.
But he joined up quite late as well. Remember, he
did. It was
before the season started. So
the day Tranmere. Day we played Tranmere in the League Cup.
Yep.
And but yeah, I mean, he's such a short space of time, and he's just adapted and slotted into our system so well. It's like you said earlier, Chris, it's a steal. That is a steal at 60 million quid.
And here's the thing, right? For so long, I can't remember the last time that we shared the goals across so many players within a season. I mean, thinking about it, we've always had at least one person that's kind of dug us out of the shit over the last sort of 10 years. And rarely have we ever had a single player get above, 10, 12 goals or something? I think one point John
double figures, isn't it?
Top goal. Yeah. I mean, we've really struggled, but now you've got, I think Wilson's on 10 as now. Isak's on 10. Yeah, Miggy's on 11. Joe Linton's popped up with a few. I mean, Longstaff. Murphy's now got a couple. Yeah. It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. And again, as I said before, it's just that confidence of all these players to make runs into the box and know that they've got a chance of scoring, and not leaving space open at the back as well. Because if you drive too far forward, you always risk leaving space open at the back. But we just seem to have that work rate to not allow that to happen.
Yeah. Well, we can highlight one point in the game, and it was in the first half, and Dan Burn was playing right wing at one point.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, he was.
I couldn't believe it.
He was playing right wing, and I looked on the left hand side and I went, "What?"
I think Trippier at one point said to him, "Get back over that side, man," and he had to actually tell him because he was enjoying himself a little bit too much. I think over that
right.
side.
Whilst we're talking about it, I don't think we can overlook Dan Burn's performance today.
Yeah, it was
I know that this was a game for the attackers, but he put in a hell of a shift, and they did have a few very dangerous attacks, and he kept up with the pace of Kulevetsky, etc. And I just thought that he had such a good game today, and not really Longstaff's fault, I suppose, but I'm annoyed that he was in the way for Dan Burn's header because he deserved a goal.
That was going in. That it
was. I don't think Foster was gonna. He might have on it, but it was going in.
I think you could tell overall, but towards the end of the game, Dan Burn was blowing out of his arse. He was knackered, and his challenges going in were just not sloppy. It was just tired challenges going in, and he was just that slightly a yard behind everybody else. But it's because he had given so much in the first 60 minutes. That's all that it was.
Yeah.
So, Darryl, I'm going to stick with you because I was going to stick with you anyway.
Yes.
For this one. But Harry Kane got on the score sheet.
Yes.
And it wasn't. I don't want to sit here and say it was coming. It was expected because it wasn't. It was just a bit of individual talent from Harry Kane. Where, like I said earlier, he's just thought, I'm going to do this myself. The rest of you are doing absolutely honking. So let's see what I can do. And he did that so well.
Yeah. I mean, we all would have said beforehand that we saw Harry Kane as a massive threat going into this game. And no matter how poor Spurs were, again, because like we were just mentioning there about having somebody to hang your coat on to get all your goals for you in the season, Harry Kane is that man for Spurs. And it was a really good bit of individual skill. I mean, he got past Fabian Schär and you thought, is he actually going to do it? And then to slot it in the way he does, it's just the quality of the man. He is a natural finisher and he's England's record goal scorer and all that and captain and whatnot. So there's a bit of respect got to go to win for that. But, even then, you weren't really worried. It was always going to be a consolation. We all knew the game was gone by that point. And he I think if he could have done, he would have probably tried to do it again. But once that had happened, we sort of held a mini inquest. I noticed. I had Trippier huddled the back four and said, "Look,
Trips was going wild."
Again. He was absolutely raging. He's like, it was quite clear. He was saying that's not happening again. That's they aren't getting anywhere near this. And then obviously we went on and scored the next goal. But he found himself in space a little bit in that time, and I actually have to say fair play to him as well, because the timing of that goal came at the start of the second half, and I thought that when we came out of the second half, we were still in a little bit of a lull, as we usually are at home when it can be a little bit quiet at the start of the second half, but that doesn't take away from the rest of it because it was fantastic.
You mentioned that we weren't concerned or anything, but I'll tell you somebody who was concerned. So at half time, I had a couple of conversations, and our good friend Thomas from War Flags, so Thomas Concannon came over, and he's like, mate, this is mental. I'd already spoken to him before kickoff, and he went, "Oh, I'm nervous about this one." I was like, me too, mate. I was like, but we'll see what happens. At half time, he came up with 5-0 up, and he went, "I think we still need one more."
Well, I texted a group chat, didn't I? And I said, I'm still a little bit concerned. And I think that's just the Ashley days still sort of, rubbing off.
Well, I'm the same as you, Joe, because we're 4-0 up, and all that was in my head was, I remember what happened at Arsenal. With Arsenal, I was like, we managed to do it at Arsenal. I was like, what's saying that they can't do this to us?
Yeah. I was like, can they score 6? Can they score 6? It might be.
We're programmed. We're still programmed for that, Joe. We really are.
No.
But with you, Joe, let's go through the sixth and final goal for Newcastle. Callum Wilson and Miggy Almiron are only on the field a couple of minutes. Double sub which was made.
65 seconds, I think it was, that Wilson was on the pitch. Yeah.
And they make an impact straight away. Work well together to score that sixth goal, which put the nail in the coffin.
Absolutely. And with Wilson, he's played a little bit more of a bit part since Isak's come into form. And I was listening to his podcast the other day, and whilst he is obviously a true professional and he's accepting of all the manager's decisions, I think he did sort of express that he was maybe a little bit annoyed that he was scoring quite a few goals recently coming off the bench and whatnot, and maybe not getting as many starts or as many minutes as he felt he deserved. But then that's just an incredible problem for us to have, having two strikers that are banging form. And, the thing is, they're two different players, Isak and Wilson. They offer different things, but this role that Wilson's playing coming off the bench and being in, that physical presence, getting in between defenders and giving them a new problem to work with is really paying us dividends. He's coming up trumps when he needs to, and that goal was just a really good example of it. He was between the two defenders. Miggy comes in, he forces a deflection, and Wilson again did very well to stay onside for that goal, because it's one of those, he could quite easily have strayed into offside position, but he didn't, and it's a brilliant tap in. And just rounded off a fantastic performance. I'm glad we got a goal in the second half as well, because whilst it was brilliant to be 5-0 up after 20 minutes, it's one of those where you feel, the game could just sort of peter out and nothing could happen for the next hour or so. But yeah, I'm glad that the Gallowgate end managed to see something of the action at least.
I know. So I sit in the Gallowgate end, and to be fair, I've got decent eyesight, so I managed to catch all of them. I feel sorry for the ones that are squinting, because all the action was over that side of the field.
It's one of those where you could probably just assume that when we attacked, you can just start celebrating down the lead.
Well, me and Mark thought Isaac had scored a hat-trick until half time. So that shows how far away it was for me, myself and Mark. Scott, Joe's mentioned there that a couple of things where we could have easily swayed offside. And I think it was clear to see that, and I was quite worried in the ground, because I'm thinking maybe VAR's step in at this point. And it never happened, because we timed those runs so well that VAR didn't have to look at it, because every single time we're clearly onside. It wasn't even close. Yeah,
we did very well to run the lines and pick the passes at the right time. Now you say it, I don't even think VAR was used at all. I think they looked at it it was just we're looking at this. Oh, that's it.
I think they'll look at everything and go, it's done.
Yeah, I think they have to. Yeah. To touch on VAR, I thought the referee had a pretty decent game as well.
Great game.
He let the game flow. Maybe he's could have booked one or two players a bit earlier than he did, but they
For
did
trying
end
to
up getting
break
booked.
Bruno's ankles, do you mean?
Yeah,
And
they
Skip
started to get a
had
bit
a
dirty
really bad
when it was
challenge.
Skip. Yeah, they just kept picking on him. And like I said in the group chat, I mean, you don't want an angry Bruno to play against you because he'll just pick a peach of a pass or he'll do something to nullify you in the game. Yeah, I think it's not been something I don't remember us really being caught offside that much this season. We're not. It's not a trait of our game. I think we do pick our runs very, very well, and we've got the players who can pick passes to play them at the right time. I'm not saying it never happens. Obviously, every team has an offside every now and again, but it's very, very rare. It's just nice to see. I mean, we've had years of Papa Cisse, who I don't think could ever be onside.
I'm not going to have any
change.
Pappy slander.
I will defend that man.
He was just ahead of the game. That's
I'm
what he
with
was.
you. I'm with you, boys. Don't listen to Scott.
Sorry, Scott.
But I think, don't listen to this. I'm going right. No, but I think it just proves how well we are, how well we've been drilled by Eddie Howe to be like, okay, this is how we're going to play. This is how you're going to run. You get the ball. This happens. I think they must have playbooks for pretty much every scenario when they pick up the ball on the pitch and who's going to do what, because the players just seem to know where each other is going to be, where they're running towards, and it just shows. I mean, like I said, you put 6 goals past Spurs. There's not a lot of teams do that.
True, and plus it's quite difficult to be offside when you're forcing teams to play so deep against you. And I'm not even saying that in jest. Well, it's really true. We pin teams back so much during a game, so it's not surprising. There's not many times we have to counter attack.
The second half where Spurs came, I don't want to say they came into the game more because they didn't really, but obviously
do any less.
But Harry Kane started dropping between defense and midfield and picking the ball up there.
Saw that.
It was so strange to see.
Yeah, he's done that to an extent in the past. I mean, it's part of his game is he comes in a little bit deep to help up, link up play with the midfielders and the wingers,
left back at one point trying to get
but never as deep as he was. And I think again, like we said before, he's looking at the rest of the team and thinking, where's the creativity going to come from? If I'm the only one who's going to even try and score, then I might as well just pick the ball up and see what I can make of it. I don't know. I thought the whole team selection for Spurs was very strange. We said on the preview that their wing backs coming further up can leave spaces open and expose them. But we were speaking about that with them playing like three centre backs, playing 5 at the back, never mind 4 at the back. I know they changed it eventually, but by that time it was way too late. So yeah. I mean, the whole formation, the whole game plan for Spurs was obviously completely ineffective. Our midfield tore through theirs without any problem. And I think I'm not sure what was wider open, their defense or Jacob Murphy's grin. It was just ridiculous. And it's quite surprising from a team that, okay, they don't have a permanent manager right now, we know, but they're still a quality team that are in 5th place. And, they're not there by fluke, they're there by merit. So for them just to capitulate as consistently as they did, it's a little bit surprising.
No, it was. Before we go on and go through a couple of more moments which have stuck out in the game, I just want to say, people that are listening back on the audio as well, if you just want to leave a 5-star review on the Gallowgateshots podcast as well, helps us out massively, gets the channel and the podcast out there more to Newcastle fans. And if you're watching live, there's almost 200 people watching at the moment. So just like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're nearly and almost at 10,000 subscribers. Only less than 200, I believe it is, at the moment.
It's less than 150 now, Chris.
There we go. Getting there. Almost there. So if we take things off the field, okay, we've covered the game. And one of the special mentions I have to give today is for that older lady, I want to say, running around with the flag.
Yes, go on.
It needs to be mentioned. Somebody picks the flag up, one of the large waving flags, and runs around one of the not the concourses, but the turn. What are we? Is it like a platform? The walkway, the alleyway?
Yeah, the walkway. Yeah.
That
Which
picks
stand
that
was
flag up. It was your side, Darryl, was it?
I think it was the Milburn between the dugout and the north in the Lisa's corner. I think that's where she was.
Oh, right.
Looking at the video
Brilliant.
back.
Brilliant.
In our check coat. And by Christ, it tells you what happens when the club's doing well, because it can spring life in anybody, no matter who they are or what age they are.
Tell you what, our fans are absolutely second to none, aren't they? Like, I know it's a bit of
yeah.
every sort of team sort of says the same thing, but it's just incredible. I mean, when you think about this fixture, right, where it was the first fixture after the takeover, and the entire atmosphere was jubilant.
Started similar as well,
before
Joe.
the game.
Yeah.
First 5 minutes, well, yeah, Wilson scored in the first 3 minutes, and it was just incredible. And you had that hope, that belief that this club is finally going to be representative of the city again, and obviously is now becoming that. And it's just really nice for us to go to the match and just be happy watching the team again. You know, be proud of the lads and be proud of the performance, and having people pick up the flags and just sprint because they've just got all that energy and that, I suppose, the happiness that we're a team that's competing against just, the big boys again. So not surprised to see, and big up to the fans there.
The Amazon cameras were there once again at St. James's Park as well. I'm not sure if you could see them in your side, Daryl, but there was 2 of them scattered in the Gallowgate strawberry corner, looking both on the field and towards the back of the stand as well. The fans celebrating too.
There was a crew hovering around with me, Dad, and Jamie Rubin as well. I saw them when I was pottering around before the game, and they were up and down from pitch side up into the director's suite and that. So there was definitely a few of them around.
Any other mentions that you boys want to highlight?
I thought Anthony Gordon did pretty well when he came on. It was nice to see him, especially after getting a bit of criticism last week and obviously the week before with his mini tantrum, shall we call it. Nearly got a goal, but he looked lively. He looked in a good place. And I also just hope that Fabian Schär, I hope it's not a bad injury, if it is an injury at all. It was a funny one that he came off the pitch, he went back on, Lascelles was all suited and booted, and then we continued, and then he came off it. I didn't know what was going on there, but
I think that might have been,
that's not as bad as it is.
I think that might have been Eddie Howe pulling rank there and just thinking, I'm doing this as a precaution, completely doing it as a precaution to protect Fabian Schär, because we know how vital he is. And if it was me, I would have done exactly the same thing. I mean, I know he wants to carry on, but we can't risk either that slight strain turning into a tear or whatever and him losing the rest of the season, basically.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think, like Scott said, that Fabian was on the deck and Lascelles was on the touchline. They were standing there with the substitution board as well, ready to bring him on. Then Fabian decided to run back onto the field. What I want to mention as well is that, and do you know what it is? I don't want to turn it into a negative. It's not necessarily a negative, but I'm just highlighting something. Bruno's ankles. Something we can tell he's got an injury there. We can tell because a lot of teams are targeting Bruno because they must be fully aware of that. And Bruno speaks openly about that he's got issues with his ankles. I think he's looking at, is it a surgery that he's looking at having at the end of the season?
I think there'll be a surgery in the summer, yeah.
Yeah, and you can tell because he's taking a little bit longer than what he used to get up when he gets fouled. So fingers crossed Bruno managed to make it right the way through the end of the season, because once again, he's just running the show for us. And my final mention is to Ricarlison. So he comes on as a sub, and he managed to leave the field with 2 Newcastle United shirts. So he grabbed Bruno's and Joe Linton's shirt. So he walks off with a shirt over each shoulder.
That's more shirts than goals he's got this season, I believe.
Exactly.
He scored at all.
And I think Anthony Gordon got his shirt as well as a result of that as well.
Yeah.
And Anthony Gordon definitely came away with his.
Well, he might have walked over 3. I saw 2. He might have been over 3.
He looked livid coming onto the pitch, mind. I mean, with 6-1 down at that point, he's not exactly been happy with his Spurs career today, and now he's getting brought on for the dying minutes as a token sub, really. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's off in the summer. Wouldn't be shocked.
Let's just end it there, boys. It's been a pleasant one, 50 minutes, and we're still absolutely buzzing. Absolutely
better than last week's
cloud 9.
And we can live off this energy all week. I'll just bring on Thursday. I can't wait. Can't wait for Thursday now.
Bring on Thursday. Bring it on. I'm not sure what we're doing. Obviously, we'll have match previews. We'll have the Always Smiling Faces podcast on Monday. and anything else we'll come up with, we'll throw your way. Everything goes out. Well, not everything, but a lot of things go out as members access. First of all, so if you want to become a member, it is just $2.99 a month to join the channel. Like I said, you get early access to a lot of videos. You'll get bonus videos as well. But yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing, lads. I think it'll take a while to climb down from this ladder where we're all right now. And yeah, bring on the next one. Let's take the next one to the sword. Away the lads.
Come
Sign
on.
out, Scott.